Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Refreshed, a MinnMax show where we highlight the wonderful work, ideas, and people on the internet. I'm your host, Anna. Today, I am joined by Stephen, Sam, and Joel. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you for having us.
So many here in the chat know who you are already. But for those, if you happen, to be new to this, you are all from the team The Game Ban, which is notoriously behind the internet sensation Blaseball, which is what we're here to talk about today. That and from before this, we were talking about Jason Derulo. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having us.
Yeah, you can blame us. You can blame us for all the weird Blaseball things that you might be seeing on your feeds.
Yeah, all the peanuts.
Yeah, all the peanuts.
all the peanuts. All the Dale fans. I'm already seeing like some antagonism between teams, and I sound like Canadian. Antagonism between teams. Someone roasted the Miami Dale in the chat, which we will not be having today. Also,
we love the Dale. No roasting the Dale here.
As developers, are you allowed to pick favorites?
Yes.
I mean, who knows if we're allowed, but we do it.
Okay, so which is your favorite team? Go around question.
I start the Kansas City Breath Mints. That's my team. In Kansas City right now, it's just you got to stay fresh, minty Breath Mints.
I'm a diehard Baltimore Crabs fan. The first ascended team, the historically excellent, incredible Baltimore Crabs. Very, very proud of them, and I hope we see them again soon.
I kind of have two teams, the Hawaii Fridays and
two teams.
I do.
That's not allowed.
Yeah, the Hellmouth Sunbeams got me off a speeding ticket. Well, my roommate off a speeding ticket, saved his life in court. So at this point, it's definitely Fridays and the Beams.
Okay. Well, for the chat, and I feel like anyone who follows me on Twitter already knows that I'm a Miami Dale fan. The official Twitter of Miami Dale. Well, okay, we'll get into this later. The fan Twitter of Miami Dale. So generously changed their name to MinnMax Stan account before this. So shout out to whoever is running that Twitter account. That was so cute. And also, before we go on, I would like to note, before we get started, the Blaseball Commissioner Parker has been formally banned from this stream. So if you see him here, make sure to kick them out. Note to the mods. Because they're not allowed, so
No,
easily done.
Great.
No,
So
Parker shouldn't be allowed on Twitch at all. That's a rule we've drawn. Yeah.
And why is that?
He's not allowed in the Discord. Definitely not on Twitch.
Okay.
I don't know if he has TikTok, but we should probably ban him from that as well.
Yeah. Okay, so before we get
Twitter isn't great for him either. It's really good.
It's more for his safety. He has a penchant for kind of stumbling into situations where things get dicey for him.
as the commissioner.
Yeah.
Great commissioner though. He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
I've heard nothing but praise. It seems like the fans really like him as commissioner. Before we get too in the weeds though, I'd like to just go over a few basic questions. Obviously from the chat, it looks like most people are familiar with Blaseball, and so they're gonna know what the commissioner is and what all these references are. But I thought a great starting point just for our conversation is could you sort of explain what Blaseball? I keep accidentally saying baseball. Blaseball. What is it in your own words? How would you describe it?
We often say it's a game about building community and solidarity against malevolent forces that are beyond your control. Taken in the form of this simulated baseball league where you are betting on the outcomes of fake teams playing fake games around the clock, and then you cash in your earnings to make changes every single week in an election that can change the fate of the league forever.
Okay, cool. And so it's a browser-based game, right? So for folks, you just go to the good old internet, the interwebs, and you type in Blaseball, and then Google tries to correct you, and then you say, no, I want Blaseball. And so you make an account, and basically like there are these games and you bet on them and you try to make money, but then there's all these mechanics where it's like that money can be taken away from you. Because then if you get too rich, then, you know, we don't want rich people in Blaseball. And so there are checks against that. Like the eat the rich. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a great example of an election item that was passed is the league passed eat the rich in the season 4 election. And so now every season, the top 1% gets their coins redistributed to the rest of the league. So that's something that the community voted on and chose to have be part of this league.
Yeah, so
it's also, I would say, like, should we all try to explain?
Yeah, I'd love to hear like the different perspectives.
Okay, so Blaseball is like fantasy baseball, right? Kind of, or fantasy baseball. I don't know. It's a simulation of a baseball league or a Blaseball league. There are 10 games running simultaneously through a season of 99 games from Monday to Friday. Playoffs are on Saturday. An election's on Sunday. Every week, fans are voting with fake money to get more coins to buy votes to change the league. Right? It's also like a story.
Do you want me to? I'll just slightly reword what both of you guys said.
Yeah, try
it. Save us, Joel.
No, I think we got it.
I don't know.
It's really impossible to like put yourself outside of it and try to explain it.
Have you seen Twin Peaks?
that is not going to clarify anything.
Yeah, that's
Have you seen Twin Peaks?
Wait, no, but please continue. I want to know how you're gonna use.
Well, it's like we've said this before, but it's like if you did like Gels marble runs in the Black Claw in Twin Peaks. That's kind of vaguely. Yeah. It's a roguelike. It's a roguelike.
Yeah, all of those things. We went on a run of just trying to pitch it in different ways for a while, and every single pitch made sense to us. So Charles Marble runs taking place in Twin Peaks made sense. The building community amidst malevolent forces beyond our control makes total sense to us. There's so many mashups that will also explain. It's like, what was it? DraftKings
meets Reddit.
DraftKings meets Reddit was a pitch at some point.
I think that was like not as accurate as for good reasons, but
that was a really early one.
That was a really early one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the way I see it, it's like, like fantasy, but another way to think about it is it's like it's role play fantasy baseball. Like
that's a good way to
really strong sort of almost like tabletop vibes because you're sort of taking on like if you want a marketing so like you're sort of there's this universe, it exists, there's this Blaseball League, which is, you know, for all intents and purposes baseball, and so within that, like you were saying, like you go to this website, you see a list of games, you sort of like declare your team as well, and then basically what you do is you bet money on games and you try to get as much money as you can, and then you can use that money to then influence how the game plays. So an example that you just gave was adding the eat the rich mechanic. Could you share a little bit more about like how that works from a developer's standpoint?
Sure. Like every season we prepare the election. So we come up with, there's 2 election categories. There's decrees, which is kind of a global, going to change the league as a whole, or, you know, make big, wide sweeping changes. Or there's blessings, which are a set of raffles that each team can win to boost their team or change them. So every week we set up all of these. We choose a set of decrees as our election items, and then we choose a set of blessings. and usually we're implementing them pretty on the fly, and listening to the community and kind of feeling out what changes they think would be cool, and we take into account what story we want to tell or where we think the league is moving, and condense that all into an election. And then they vote throughout the week, changes are made, and we repeat the process the next week. So we ran 11 seasons so far, and we're currently running like an exhibition tournament. So that was 11 elections, and the league has changed quite a bit in that time.
We changed reality once.
We did change reality. What else did we opened a Forbidden Book? That was the first one.
The beginning, yeah. Grand on Slam.
Killed God. We killed a God, sorry. Yeah.
Right.
It's really...
Resurrected a player. Yeah, necromancy happened. That was a cool thing.
It's really hard to cover all of it.
Yeah. Something that I'm curious about is that the game ban works on, like more traditional games, like where cards fall. And so I'm curious to see how developing Blaseball and working with Blaseball differentiates and sort of how different it is from working on, like, I guess, like a more standard video game.
They're very, very drastically different from each other. With Where Cards Fall, it was a game that we knew was going to be released at some point and basically be wrapped at that point, beyond the kind of general support that you do for being on a platform. So it kind of felt like a one-shot type of deal where we were trying to just get it to be as beautiful and as well made and polished as it possibly could be before it came out. While Blaseball has this like raw, unfinished, manic energy about it. And, like, it came out very, very not complete. And Joel had the great idea to make the bugs the story, and then that became a huge part of Blaseball, like from its early days, where the fans would get into it, things would break, we would respond, they would respond, and then we would just kind of keep going. The process feels a lot more like improv, I think, than actually like sitting down and I think Joel, you once described like working on games more like Where Cards Fall, like kind of working under a microscope. You're really trying to perfect your design. While Blaseball is like it's a different beast.
Yeah. I know, Sam, you and I both come from a kind of like design mindset of like keeping it minimal and simple and just have everything be perfect. And that was very much like, that was Where Cards Fall. We were just trying to get everything just perfect. And this feels like a prototype that just kept going. It's everything that's in there, we just threw in. We didn't really, I think the most playtesting and iteration we did was I tested out the elections in the early going. And it was all like on paper, just by hand. I was like process the election and like put it back into the sim. But that was the only time where we actually like really tested. We did run like a few more test seasons than that. But like for the most part, it was just let's throw things in there and just see how they go over. And that became the live operations of this game. So yeah, very raw. It's very raw.
Yeah.
We're not careful about some things, and we can't afford to be.
Given that it was so rough, like, did you expect it at all to sort of become what it is today?
Kind of
like, what did you seek out to make? Like, what was in your mind when you're sitting down to make Blaseball? Like, what were you thinking?
The initial pitch was pretty much this. Okay. It's just like the way it happened and the speed at which it happened was shocking.
Yeah.
Like I had daydreamed about like, oh, what if this blows up? And then they're like, people are actually really serious about this sports league that we made, and then like I wasn't thinking about like fan art. I wasn't thinking about role players' Twitter accounts, but like I don't know. I imagined it getting big and like being. The pitch from the beginning involved the election. So people are going to change this league and make it their own. And that was the hope.
Yeah,
that was
definitely
the
speed.
Go ahead.
It was definitely like the speed with which it caught on, because even those first couple weeks when, you know, it was the three of us and our producer Felix, like moderating the Discord basically, and there were like 1,000 people in there. We were like overwhelmed. It was like, wow, this is kitchen, like this is bigger than we expected right now. And then it just kind of exponentially just took off from there. So those first 3 or 4 weeks especially was just this constant scramble to keep up with it.
Yeah,
I think what Joel was saying about the fan art and the the role playing and all of that, like that was for me the thing that caught me the most off guard. Like in my wildest dreams for it, like this is like, you know, a even bigger version of something like Universal Paperclips, where it was like really, really fascinating to people from a like system standpoint, a collaboration standpoint, and as like a really kind of interesting passive idle game that they can play in their browsers. But like with sports, there's of course going to be attachment to characters and personalities, but the magnitude of that was far beyond what I think any of us were really into.
We were surprised by that communal storytelling, but like in retrospect, we all value that.
Yeah,
we all like that in games, so it's like it's not shocking to me that it made it in there and that community sprang from it. But like we weren't thinking about it when we made it. So
yeah. I mean, and it's interesting because it's what sort of did you have any other games that you modeled Blaseball off of? Like, were there any inspirations besides like, I guess, like actual fantasy baseball? Because this idea of the community playing a role in shaping the game is kind of, I think is kind of new. And maybe I'm just like, I haven't gone into the archives of, you know, various games enough. Mm-hmm. But for me, like within my lifetime of playing, like maybe besides like Neopets, like Blaseball is like the first game that really allows you to make something of it. But did you have any models that you were working from with that?
We did talk about Neopets.
Yeah, we talked about a lot. It's a hodgepodge of a lot of different ideas. I think the one that like, I don't know if we talked about this a whole lot in the early going, but it's like it's something that, think about it now, definitely was a huge part of it, is Twitch Plays Pokemon. Like, I was really into that. I remember like when the community caught like Zapdos or something, I was at a party and I ran outside and screamed. I was so excited. And like I think that experience has kind of been like, there's a similar experience with that with Blaseball, where it's like when a big moment happens and you know everybody was watching it and contributed to it together, you're excited for that reason. So that's that model. When that game came out, like it was, I feel like everybody was wondering how that was going to influence the industry and like what games would spring out of Twitch Plays, and in some way Blaseball is a model off that.
I was saying we had a prototype back before Blaseball in the studio that we shelved that had some of this in it. It was supposed to be a game that was going to be played by ideally a large audience, where they all together would be making small individual choices that would then create massive change. And we didn't talk about it when we were working on Blaseball. We just kind of had done that experiment, and it was somewhere locked in our minds. And I think a lot of it ended up making its way into this one.
That's true. That was very much we did a role play prototype. And so we did test around with just like this like telling a story with community social choices through a like an RPG, like a tabletop RPG kind of setup. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the other day, like, we did actually test out some of this stuff and then subconsciously brought it into Blaseball without actually having a formal discussion about it.
A lot of Blaseball was brought in subconsciously.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely seems like it. I mean, like so much of it, you know, and that's like everyone is sort of operating like on just like another plane with Blaseball. It's like it's truly sort of like its own space. And like what I guess that's what sort of made me think of just, yeah, like role playing in general is like, okay, like, I don't know. I, again, like tried to explain it to my boyfriend, and he's like, what, what, and I'm like,
used to that reaction.
like,
Yeah, it's like an MMO oral tradition. You have to. That's part of the challenge. Is you got to explain it to people.
Yeah.
You have to go proselytize Blaseball around the world. Yeah.
Since launching it, well, and I think it's the Twitch plays Pokemon is something that I haven't thought about and is really interesting. And I don't know, it's like really heartwarming because I think so much of like the swarm mind of the internet is like often, it's not like a great thing. It's like often a negative thing.
Yeah.
And like cyber mobs, sort of form around various people or events. And so it is really nice to like, I don't know, I feel like Blaseball is just like this little shining spot in the middle of, like a lot of murkiness within the internet.
Yeah, we try to keep it that way. It takes everyone in the community just like trying to keep things positive and
Yeah. What has
Yeah.
the process?
There's gonna be challenges too. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna. There's been challenges, especially as it gets bigger and bigger. But we fortunately have been lucky to have a community that bought in pretty much immediately and wants to continue to foster that kind of welcoming, positive space. And then we've been very lucky to have help from our keepers, our moderators on the Discord, or Felix, our producer, was really spearheading that from the outset. And we just the whole mass organizing aspect of it would not be possible without them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's what I was wondering is how did you go about building a team of sort of informal collaborators? Because I imagine there's this trickiness where it's okay, you want a positive community, but some of the people managing it aren't officially affiliated with your team necessarily, and them and they're good people. But was it just all volunteer and you're just okay, this person seems good, they've been involved consistently and they just sort of grew into that role organically, or did you ever seek out people to help with this growing community?
Felix definitely had some people that they had experience with on other Discord servers that were recruited to help us, thankfully. And then the rest of them kind of, grew up through various roles in the community. And I think we've just been trying to just, it was meant to be a small side game. We knew our kind of the values that we wanted to push, or our own politics or what have you. And what we weren't going to tolerate, especially in our little Discord for Blaseball. And then that just kind of continued. People just, shared sensibilities and shared values, just kind of, all started figuring that out together. I guess it was a collaborative process. I don't know. That's a poor explanation.
Yeah. You create an environment together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you create that positive environment and you constantly feed love into that and just, I don't know, people lean into it. People enjoy having a community that's just positive.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it takes everybody to kind of just keep up that environment. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do any of you have some favorite stories of engaging with the community, or anything that especially surprised you? I know you mentioned the fan art as being one point where it's oh, this is kind of a moment that this is impacting you, but was there sort of anything else you're oh, this is actually really special?
A ton. I mean, Blaseball Cares, just I'm wearing Blaseball Cares right now. It's a fan merch site that popped up and echoes an ongoing weekly initiative that the community started. Every Sunday, representatives from different teams came to us and said, hey, we want to raise money for, charity or for organizations that are, we think are deserving, or that share the, just prioritize the things that we want to, that we believe Blaseball stands for. And we were blown away by that. And then they've been doing it, every week since week 2 or 3. And now there's a fan merch site where all profits go to charity. that like blew me away.
Yeah, it's a good one. Thinking back to the first messages of people being like, "Oh, we'd like to do like a weekly charity thing." We're like,
Yeah.
Go for it. To see what it's
Yeah.
like grown into it's amazing.
Yeah.
They also made a
love-
website called Blaseball.gift with just a ton of really kind fan letters about how much the game has meant to them. And I think it made every single person on the team cry. We're also touched by it. So, just thinking about it right now, it makes me like choke up.
Or Sibber. Like Sibber just diving into the database and really like putting together white papers about Blaseball was just insane to see, or like seeing them do real research and like prove why a dumb idea I had was going to break Blaseball, and we're very lucky it didn't pass. Was really fun to see. But then like they're also they raised like $3,000 for charity on Monday. Just they're constantly looking for ways to make positive change, in the real world through Blaseball, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
And to
no, go ahead.
put out an idea that like was a community story, but also fed into the actual like a story in Blaseball. Was the Wild Wings championship that started with them when the league was realigned, and just the randomness of the sim was very mean to them and put them in the mild league. And that led to a fake lawsuit that led to a whole storyline of them eventually winning the championship. And that was just, I don't know, it was just a perfect story of Blaseball, where it started from randomness of the simulation and then fed into the community, where they came up with an idea, which we then toyed with and played with, changing their name around. And then it ended up being this great story when they won the championship that season. It was, I don't know, that's just a wonderful Blaseball story. They're also fake lawsuit. It was a real lawsuit. I'm sorry. It was a certified real lawsuit.
There was so much legal paperwork. Like,
how long did all the paperwork take? Or who was the lawyer? Who did you hire? Who's the primo lawyer in the Blaseball universe?
There's so many lawyers. But no more lawsuits. We burned the courthouse down.
It's Case Sports. Case Sports is the example though. The Case Sports was a Wild Wings player, and with the name Case, like it just was. That's who it is. That's the lawyer.
Do you
Also
think Blaseball would be as
also a lawyer,
as popular today if it weren't for the pandemic? Because it kind of like lined up pretty neatly. I feel like a lot of people came to Blaseball during that time period. Is it just like people want to hang out?
Yeah.
One of the reasons we made it, we wanted to make a game that would bring people together in a very isolating time. I think and I hope that it will have a long life outside of this, when everything gets back to a little bit more normal. But yeah, I mean, because it is a game that ideally, like what we want it to be, is very respectful for your time. It's a little place that you can jump into with people that you really like spending time with, and make some follow stories if you want to, follow your team, root for chaos to happen, and but put in as much as you want to and get something for that.
Yeah, start to finish. Well, start to now. It's like it was made during the pandemic, like from initial ideation. There's something to be said for sure about like just that people are isolated, so they're more willing to be part of a community. But like Sam said, we think it'll bridge outside of it too, if this thing, when this thing is finally over.
Yeah, I think also like there were ideas there that obviously the guys were interested in, that we were collectively interested in just seeing where things are moving in terms of like mass social games and stuff, social experiences that, I came on a little bit into the process after there was already like a working sim in place. And just seeing, just like throwing out ideas for ways to cause chaos and mess with it was incredibly exciting. And then just thinking about different ways that, large numbers of people could do that and shape something together. That's an experience that every fan wants to have, I think, that we all kind of like pretend that we have when we watch sports, and we're all sports fans, so whether that's like superstitions or rituals or just like, being extremely into like the trade deadline, and like hoping, yelling on Twitter about it. I think this was just like a natural evolution of where things are going, but you can't, obviously the pandemic was like a huge part of why maybe it hit right now.
So Floofstrid in the chat's wondering, like, do you have any idea of how long you're going to keep it going? I imagine because it is, like you were saying, it has this improv nature to it, improvisational, I can't speak today, to it. Like, do you have long-term plans for it?
We do. We wanted to have a very long, healthy future ahead of it. We're working diligently right now on both creating what the immediate future for Blaseball might be, and to make it in a way that's more sustainable for us, the studio, and the fans as well. So a lot of changes, I think, for the better will be coming in the next era, and we're taking our time to do it properly and give people something really good. But Blaseball, I think, will always have a place as long as it has something new and important to say, and as long as the fans are contributing to it and getting something out of it, then we will try to keep it going.
Yeah, and it's going to change. Like we're putting a lot of thought right now into how we can tell different stories and improve certain parts of the experience of Blaseball, making it more respectful of people's time, how it might adapt to a post-pandemic world. We're putting a lot of time into thinking about that. And so it may change, but the spirit of Blaseball will always be there as we're continuing in that future of it. So.
Yeah, I think Joel and I have said this before, but like the sim itself, and this is what, Sam had intended when he first pitched snail racing, is like, it's a shared reality that we can all collectively get some distance from, and kind of get a bead on and then react to together. And then decide what we want to do with it. Then we can manipulate it however we want. And I think that's something, as long as there's that something to react to and change, then you can spin up all sorts of like interesting social games, ideas. That's the grounding upon which we kind of all find each other.
Joel deserves the credit for snail racing. I pitched horse racing, and he immediately moved it into weirder territory, which is the beautiful process of making this game, right? Is like you take an idea that's like kind of normal and then instantly push it into something more interesting.
But yeah, the sim is that axis that like we all are just kind of like orbiting around and can like orient ourselves to one another with. And so I think that kind of communal collective storytelling and just play, will always have a place.
Yeah. So then, like, for people who are like interested in Blaseball and new to it, like, how do you break into a game that's constantly changing? Because I think that can be kind of intimidating, and like it's like both the draw and I think one of the hardest things about the game is like there's such a rich world around it and is constantly changing, and there's a lot of language that's really specific to the game as well. What are your sort of suggestions to like entering this new shared reality with other folks?
You're absolutely right. And so far we've gotten, like, that is part of the draw, is figuring it out. But you get through that by talking to people in the community, by joining the Discord and asking questions, by reading explainers that people write, by watching videos. I think the goal on our side is to simplify some things, but also provide more of that as part of the core experience, to see things explained in the core experience, to be able to see things that have happened on the site. Like I think the more we provide that, the more we allow you to catch up as part of the experience of Blaseball, the site. I think it'll be easier to jump into. And, maybe we'll put a tutorial. I don't know. We know that is part of the respecting people's time of this game, is like, how much time do you have to spend just catching up? If you could cut that part of the process out of coming back to Blaseball, or joining Blaseball the first time, how much less time would you have to put towards this game? Because the core of the experience is just interacting in the community and voting and watching these games. So we'd like to keep a lot of the experience on that.
Yeah, I really like how, Stephen, you always describe it as oral tradition, and I think this really gets to that, where like if you think about like a TV show, if you're 5 episodes behind, like you can just catch up and you'll be right there with everybody else. But you can't do that with a game like Blaseball, because the story is live and it is shaped by the players as much as it's shaped by the designers. So the only way to catch up is to talk to people and to ask questions and to find out what happened. So that oral tradition is like really kind of baked into the core experience you have of playing it.
That said, we also want to make sure that you can, like, if you've spent some time away from Blaseball, you can engage with the site and get a sense of things that have happened. But yeah, it's a balance, because we want you to have to help each other. It's co-op. I've joked about it before, but it's like it's just different co-op modes. That's what it is.
There was the coffee cup, right, recently. What should fans look out for, like, most immediately? Is there anything that you'd like to bring to folks' attention right now?
Well, we've got the final round, the championship.
Oh, okay. It's
round.
Okay.
That's on Tuesday.
Okay.
It's on Tuesday. I think here in the near future, we'll be talking about what's next. So I'd say participate, watch the Coffee Cup on Tuesday, and keep looking at the Blaseball Twitter account, and we'll keep.
Yeah, we'll have some announcements coming. We also, things I think that we can say. Our one of our patron tiers allows people to ask questions for a monthly Q&A that we do. So that will be coming up. We'll announce a date for that. And then, we'll have announcements soon.
Awesome. So just one more question from the chat. Folks are wondering if there are any like character interpretations that are your favorites.
I loved Nagomi McDaniel as a crab. Just all of the like body horror crab stuff that was coming out early with the crabs drawings was really, really cool to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of my headcanon is like body horror stuff too, and like weird creatures. I just learned, I said this before, but like what an axolotl, is that how do you say it?
Yeah, axolotl.
Yeah, I just learned what that was because of Richmond Harrison. So the big boy is a particular favorite of mine. Yeah.
I'm a fan of the recent players in the Coffee Cup that we saw, the BC Noir team, Liquid Flame, Knuckle Plasma. I just really love seeing all of that art. All of them were good. It's just a good like detective duo. I'm a big fan.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you so much again for taking your time. Is there anything you want to plug before the hour's up? You are Patreon run, correct? Would you want to drop that there for the folks watching and listening?
Yeah, that's always really helpful. We understand we're not pumping out new Blaseball content right now, so if that makes you feel uneasy about supporting us, we completely understand. That said, if you would like to throw something our way, we'd always really appreciate it. Sorry, there's like a push cart right outside the door.
You think I'm like a horn?
I thought you had it saved.
Is that a normal sound that you're just like
every night at around 5 o'clock? It's outside my window. I think I just need to go like buy a hot dog or something. Make it go away.
You know, many meetings with Sam end this way, where it's just like, you just start hearing weird noises and just like, oh yeah, that's a bird outside the window.
Yeah, you know.
And then where can folks find you all on Twitter in case they want to keep up with your work as well, personally?
The studio is the Game Band. Parker, I guess you can follow, is Blaseball. I'm Sam Rosenthal, and you two can say how you spell your Twitter names. I always get it wrong.
Mine's easier now. Mine had a lot of underscores before. It's just _ Stephen Bell _
And I'm Joel_A_Clark.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again for coming on to chat with us today about Blaseball, the internet phenomena / fantasy baseball game / I can't even remember all the pitches. Online game that everyone loves right now. Thanks so much to the chat. And again, before we wrap up, I'd like to thank all the MinnMax Patreon supporters. Because of you guys, I get to have cool people on to talk. Without the support of our community, we wouldn't be able to continue to put out content like this, like my show and Leo's show, Watch Later. And so again, thank you. And if you would be interested in supporting us, you can find us at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
MinnMax is a Patreon about games, friends, and getting better. The Deepest Dive is the best, most thorough discussions about games on the internet. Prove us wrong, please. The MinnMax Show podcast airs every Thursday. Patreon supporters vote on what we stream every single week, and a whole lot more. Give us a shot, try subscribing to the YouTube channel, and we hope we can win you over.